Hey y'all, I'm Aeon,
And I'm the lioness.
and you're listening to Box number 512 podcast.
Grown Black Trans Woman Talk. Changing your world one conversation at a time.
The show begins now. Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Box number 512 podcast, Grown Black Trans Woman Talk. It's just me this week, Aeon. Lioness is out of town and she's on vacation, getting her life. So she's going to be taking a break for this week. But we're going to jump right into the conversation. But before we do, make sure that if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, that you rate this podcast and you also give us a review. Those reviews help other folks to help find our content, and it helps drive our engagement. Also, we encourage you to become a supporter on our Patreon page. But thank you all for supporting us and for continuing to listen to us. We really appreciate it. Now, getting into our main conversation today. I'm very lucky to have a very, very special guest, a very, very busy and a very, very important individual come and stop down to the Box number 512 podcast. She is a trailblazer in her industry. She's one of the leading Black PR professionals based out of Atlanta. She has her own PR agency. She's transforming into the entertainment industry. She just a couple of weeks ago, she just announced her own production company where she's going to produce original content that centers Black trans femmes, which I'm very excited about. And I'm so fortunate that she took time out of her schedule to come down here so we could have a conversation. The lovely, the incredible, the brilliant, the boss lady, Miss Chanel Hudson. Welcome to Box Number 512 podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here. You're honored and lucky about me, but I'm honored and lucky to be in your presence, honey. You're a trailblazer. I see. I'm in the legal world. I could talk legal for a little bit, but then I get a little lost. So I'm for me, it's an honor. In my industry, I haven't met a Black trans person at that in your career field. So it's an honor to meet you and to spend this time with you.
Thank you. It's an honor to meet you as well. I know we have interacted on social media mainly through Facebook, but this is our first time really having a conversation one-on-one. So I'm very excited to be sharing space with you. So I guess let's get down to the nitty-gritty.
Let's get to the nitty-gritty, honey.
So tell the people where you're based out of and tell the people what it is that you do.
Well, I am currently based out of Atlanta, Georgia. My clients live all around the world. I own a public relations and brand marketing agency, and I've kind of transitioned into talent management, and it's one of those things that you're not expecting, but you're good at it. And if the coin is there, you don't turn down a coin if you don't have to sacrifice your soul for it. You just kind of fall into it. And we basically specialize on brand structure, talent mentality. A lot of people don't understand the psychology of, a lot of people don't understand the psychology of public relations. A lot of people think it is a decoy or some type of fantasy thing that happens or a magical thing that happens. But in all actuality, the sacrifices that are put into this career for the average person is, very scrupulous. For me being Black, for me being trans, it's 10 times as scrupulous. So I have just established a method of my own and it works. I am happy. I have no complaints. I don't live in negative energy. I have the right to say no to anybody who reaches out to me, and they all reach out to me. It is my right to say, no, I don't want to work with you, or no, let me refer you to somebody else. So having that power and being an agency owner is very cathartic for me, because a lot of the times people own agencies and people work in a particular space, they don't have the power. They just kind of stick to a routine that, pays the bills. And I did not become an entrepreneur to stick to a routine and pay the bills. I became an entrepreneur to have a voice of power within a marginalized community of professionals in which I don't see many girls or guys, for that matter, that look like me. So that's
So,
essentially.
so what exactly, to the layperson, like what is public relations? Clearly, you attract clients and you have clientels. What do you do for your clients? For somebody that doesn't know what PR is.
So on a elementary school level of public relations, it is basically the art of connecting the public with a figure or a brand or a business and maintaining and curating a relationship, hence the word public relations. A lot of people think that PR is a word like, I need a PR. There's no such
Right,
thing as
right,
needing a public relations. You need a publicist, which are the engineers within the PR realm that structure whatever game plan or whatever strategy is needed to execute deliverables that clients are paying you for. So at the elementary school level, I always tell people this about PR. It's a lifestyle luxury accommodation. It is not a necessity. And, for the basic people that want to understand public relations, it's not something that you can learn. It's something that you have to do, and it's something that you have to get better at over time. You can't read a book and say, I know how to do PR. You may know the basis of what it is, but if you don't have those long-term relationships, if you don't have those direct contacts, if you don't have those resources, your bond is just as good as dirt. It's going to crumble, and it's going to create a reputation of how people perceive you in the industry. So it is a very basic thing when you read about it. Public relations. It's connecting the public and building relationships with brands and figures and those type of people. But it's an art. It's a mental art. And once you discover that mental art, you will be great. But it takes you some time to discover that mental art. So, that's why they come
So
pay the
are you
girls.
so are you at liberty to like tell us, like, you don't have to name everybody, and if some folks are confidential, that's fine. Who are like some of the people that you have represented in the past, or
So my clientele consists of private sector and public sector. I started off in the private sector and I was a fixer. I would work with basketball wives, baseball wives, football wives. Their husbands are cheating on them, or their husbands are, you know, stepping out. They need to set up surveillance. They need to do all these things to prove a point to themselves. I've sat through over 10 abortions of jump offs, mistresses who got pregnant by famous people with families who have morality clauses in their contracts. And, I used to be sent in to basically convince a person that money was better than having another man's baby. And it was immorally corrupt, but as a trans woman, we get treated like dirt. So we're just like, look,
right?
this is the opportunity of a lifetime. But some of my previous clients, so how I started off is I started off at a major PR agency. Shout out to the 135th Street agency. They're now 135. Saptosa Foster, Shantae Bacon. They were like my Olivia Popes of PR when I came into the world. They were the two Black women on top. And I mean, my first 6 months, I was managing accounts for Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, David Tutera, My Fair Wedding, Ayana Van Zant, Fix My Life, the Braxtons. All of those accounts were at my desk. And then I would transfer over to work on movies, The Butler, Lee Daniels, The Butler with Oprah, Fruitvale Station, The Avengers. And they, basically, and there's a lot more. I'm just naming what I could remember off the top of my head. But there were basically, we would target the Black actors and actresses in these mainstream films, and we would basically capitalize on their publicity as being a part of the film. Because as most people don't know, when you are a part of a big box office film, or you're a big part of a big studio film, a lot of the underlying Black actors and actresses who already are established do not get the same level of publicity as some of the lead actors and actresses that are established, especially if you have a predominantly Caucasian cast of people. If you have six Caucasian actors and actresses and two African American actors and actresses that don't play such a significant role, our job was to basically find those opportunities within the urban mainstream markets and plug them, and which was a wide success. I mean, we used to get impressions. I used to sit and pull screenshots from Twitter, impressions, and just to see at the grassroots level that accomplishment for me, it was just I couldn't believe I could do anything. And then you're under the direction of two people who are well respected. I'm walking into the studios of Southside Studios in Atlanta, owned by Jermaine Dupri. That's where our offices were, Monday through Friday. At any given day, you could see Mariah Carey in there sipping champagne and lingerie, or you would see Usher in the Boom Boom Room, or you see the Brat, on the phone handling business, or Grammy Award-winning producer Brian Michael Cox, and then you see every plaque on the wall. So you walk in and you're inspired instantly, but then the pressure of working with Hollywood's Black elite really does kick in. And, the past is what the past is. We could get to the past in a minute, but for the most part, those are some of the accounts that I had agency level. When I started my own agency,
Mm-hmm.
I was a non-competing firm, meaning I'm not competing with any other publicist in this realm because I know being a Black trans woman, I would have to build the table, buy the wood, build the chairs, and put the players at my table because there was no table preset for me, like a lot of other people have with their career. Gay men, Black gay men, oh my God, roadmap, yellow brick road, women, yellow brick road, whites, Black. When it comes to me being trans, Black, and then I'm also Jamaican, and then I'm also outspoken. I have a big personality. There's no table, and it was very clear that there wasn't a table for me when I was at the agency level because of some of the things that I incurred there, but at the hands of Black women. So for me, it was like, wait, nobody's gonna believe this. Like, no one's gonna support what I'm doing. And the first, 2 years, clients were very afraid of having trans representation. And that kind of caused me to go into this whole spiral of I used to draw a fake beard on my face with synthetic hair. And I used to put a binder on to cover up my chest. And I used to, make sure my voice was a little bit deeper. And I would represent myself as a gay man because there were no opportunities. When I did that, Mama D, Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, Dr. Heavenly, Married to Medicine, Lisa Nicole Cloud, Married to Medicine, Tracy Steele, DJ Tracy Steele, Love and Hip Hop, all the major people on TV at this time. It was like instant. And it was like almost like a moment for me, like, wait, are my clients going to be these celebrities who only want to work with me because they think that all gay boys have connections, or would they really want to work with me if they knew that I was a trans woman up underneath all this regalia?
You took me right to the point I wanted to make. So I'm assuming that once you started at the agency level, you hadn't physically transitioned yet.
So let's get into the transition. So,
Okay.
I want to give the backstory just so people are clear.
Okay.
My physical transition started at 13 years old to the point where I did not go through puberty. My Adam's apple didn't even form. And I come from a universally abusive household. And when I say universally abusive, it is physical, it's verbal, it's mental, it's emotional. It's all of the abuses that you could think that a child goes through in a household. And my parents are in the church. My dad's a pastor, very prominent. My mom's evangelist, very prominent. We live in a very prominent area amongst the wealthiest of Caucasian people. So having all of those universally abusive triggers growing up, my transition was never something I could be proud of or speak out loud. I actually started taking Black market hormones because that was offered to me around the same time crack cocaine was offered to me. because of my turmoil that I went through, I had a lot of outlets outside that were some negative, some positive. And I would feed to those outlets because even though they were negative, they treated me better than how I was being treated at home. So I started on the black market silicone without no prescription, no idea of what I was doing when I was 13.
Oh,
And by the
wow.
time I got to Morehouse, I had a very scary experience at Morehouse where I passed out in one of my classes and had to get all types of stuff done because my estrogen level was so astronomically high that my body would not produce testosterone, which is not a healthy thing. So
Right.
blood clots started to form as a result of that. I have blood clots now as a result of that. So there's certain things that happen. I gained weight in all the wrong areas. You're supposed to gain fat when you're on estrogen.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Box Number 512 Podcast, Grown Black Trans Woman Talk.
And don't forget to become a patron on the Box Number 512 Patreon page, where we have all new exclusive content.
And also, don't forget to follow us on our social media, on our Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook pages. And also, become a subscriber on our YouTube page. Until next time, bye.